Good morning, Rabbi Boisai. Agun Chodesh. Today's shir is sponsored. Happy anniversary to my wife Tzirel. I couldn't do anything, let alone the Yomi, without her support of Ramir Farkovits. By Efrayim Jaffe in honor of Efrayim Natelson joining the Daf, and everyone else in Silver Spring, Maryland, who is part of the MDY Daf Chaburah, welcome. In honor of my dear friend Gershon ben Miriam of Atlanta, who Hashem has put him on the path to recovery from a life-threatening illness. May Hashem bring him a complete refuah immediately. Your friends, Chanan and Shirra, Averbuch. In honor of Reb Eli, unbeknownst to him, had a big part in both of my sons' recent engagement. Elchanan Pressman and family. Okay, hold on, that was another one. Again, unbeknownst to him, had a big part in it. I got it. Elchanan Pressman and family. Mazel tov Elchanan. You guys know who Pressman is. He presses the chumash here. He used to, at least. How did you have sex with this kid? We're going to see soon. There's an email I have to read. I'll read it together with you. We'll find out. L'ilui nishmas harav Meir Zlottoviץ, founder of ArtScroll. We do have a tremendous hakara satoiv. We have the Hebrew ArtScroll here. The English is going in over there. And everything else. I told you the mice. I was once, years ago, I was once in the airport. I was doing the daf with an ArtScroll, and a woman next to me, I hear her say, "Hey, Dad, a guy right next to me is learning from your sefer." It was his daughter. Meir Zlottoviץ was his daughter. L'ilui nishmas harav Shlomo Kluger, the Golad Dor, Shlomo Kluger, sponsored by Yossi Klein, otherwise known as the stress relief pill, as a schus for all the people helping with the upcoming Mesechet Sukka free Gemara campaign, especially to Nasanel Gants. They should always be on the given end. Bracha and hatzlacha to all. Rabbi Boisai, I just want to stop here for a second. I spoke to Yossi Klein yesterday. I didn't realize the magnitude of this undertaking. It's a $50,000 campaign. $50,000. It's going to be Meshuggah. They say that Sukkah is one of the Mesechtas that many people like, and they'll want to join. That's what he thinks. He wants to give over 1,000 Gemaras, Sukkah, ArtScroll, Mesifta, Hebrew ArtScroll. So Rabbi Boisai. So he's looking for partners. I'm not one to ask for money, but he's looking for partners that I believe is a tremendous schus. How do you what? How do we contribute? Contact Yosef Bilyak on dafberma.com. He'll, through what? dafberma@gmail. I'm not doing this, okay? You do that. He wants to put the thing, okay. Imagine you sponsor 50 Gemaras, and one guy joins the shir and does shas. The schus is unbelievable. To get people that never. I was just at the bris yesterday. A grace yishkoyach to Morty Tiffenbrun. He gave me kisi shel Elio. Never got that before. Beautiful. So a guy came over to me and goes, I got a free Gemara, and I'm still with you. So that's 60 days later. The schusim are tremendous. So that's that. Also, since Yosef Miller is here. Mazel tov to Yosef Miller. He had a baby girl yesterday. Wow. No tachlin today. There's no tachlin yesterday. Morty was here. You should have seen the simcha in the guy's faces. He's here. He's no tachlin. Tachlin. Looking for every excuse. Wow, there's no tachlin. All right. Also, Nasanel Gants put together a video last time called "The Magic of Eli," something like that. It's a promotional video for the shir, and it has over 11,000 hits. So he wants to redo it. So if anybody wants to send in, if you want to be famous like those guys, like Yossi Klein, and that's where he stress relief feels from that video, and have a schus of bringing people to the shir. So send in your video. If you have the theme of the video is how Daf Yomi changed your life. You're first. You have something to say, Avi? How has it changed your life? For the better. Oh, very bad news. It is bad news. I'm sorry to inform you that we are not doing the trip to the Kaisel this week. So when it's going to, I don't know exactly when, maybe in 2 weeks from now. So my streak is going to keep on going for over a year. Gary's streak is already 7, 8 years. When was the last time you were at the Kaisel? Problem. All right. Yeah, he hasn't been there in years. Years. He's not even mevuyish to say. Says, we have to read this email. It's a 4-minute email. Wow. Says like this. You wanted to know how Elchanan Pressman's sons became engaged. Dear Reb Eli, before you contemplate opening the Reb Eli training school for superstar Rebbeim or the Reb Eli training school for flipping skyscrapers, please continue to reconsider our prior suggestion box request. You'll see why below. I'm happy to let you know that the power of you not flatly rejecting any of my and many others' requests for a 15-minute week chumash shir in the back of your mind, subconsciously considering how you would manage to do it all, has been a huge segula for my family. He knows. He knows these things. After multiple, as you call it, pressing for the chumash here, please recall that Baruch Hashem on Erev Pesach, one of my sons got engaged. You somehow announced my daughter that I don't have got engaged. I'm thinking to myself, this is a lot better than what I did when I said that I don't want to mention his name, he's sitting in the room, Daron's mother, I said, instead of saying his father, Lili Nishmas, Hashem Yirachim. Okay, so at least, whatever, he doesn't have a daughter. I'm very bad at this. Last night, Baruch Hashem, another son of ours got engaged. Mazel Tov! As you know, this is no coincidence. I'm therefore dedicating today's shir in honor of the Simchas, specifically because I didn't have a chance to dedicate a shir prior to the engagements for the schus of them finding their zivug. But here's the important part. If these two engagements are the result of you just pondering how you could fit in a 15-minute chumash shir into your really 30-hour day, can you imagine how many children of our Chevra get engaged? You actually did figure out how to add it to the schedule, give us a long overdue 15 chumash shir. Even if once a month would be great, kindly at least continue to think about it. Mitoich hakaras hatoy v'simcha rabba Elchanan Pressman yishkoyach. And finally, from Judah Ler, maybe somebody can help me out here. I'm not very familiar with this particular singer. Because of your shir, I switched around my daily morning seder to being mashlim the daf early in the day so I can chazir it on YouTube with my morning power walk. After all, how many times can I listen to a different live version of Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones? I know, it's not different. Even they get boring. Hey, one guy laughed. Okay, at least he understood. Even they get boring after a while. Driller, Muncie, New York. They listen to this stuff in Muncie, New York. Yossi Klein, I know you're from New York. You have no idea what Rolling Stones is. It's Mordechai ben David's next door neighbor. Whatever. Sorry. Huh? Yeah. You know him? Get over here. You know him? You get over here. Come here. Yisrael helper and come here. If you know him, you have to come to the front. I'm not talking to you. You come here and you talk to me over here. What are you, Darshan? Get over here. No. What are you? That's a Yisrael Beishonim name. All right. Rabbi Isai, here, come. Yisrael, you can still come. He's coming. That's it. He knows the halach. You have to ask 3 times and then you come. Rabbi Yisrael helper and everybody. Well, Florida, Muncie, and RBS. Okay, Givaldi. All right. And who? Yehuda Ler. Shalom Aleichem, Yehuda Ler. Okay. So yesterday, we were talking about whether or not blood of a carbon has me'ilah. There's no me'ilah because Nasa Mitzvah, the Gemara says, it makes sense logically to say, not the reverse, that there is me'ilah, but there is a me'ilah because Nasa Mitzvah. You already accomplished what you wanted to do with it. So Meila, there's no Meila, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shakol niyeh b'dvaroi. Shkoyach, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeshua, beautiful job in the water. So, again, Meila is the Isser to use something that's owned by Hegdesh, by the Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says, Ein chodover shenasis mitzvasim v'olam bay. V'loi, last words on Nun Tesam Beis. V'arei Trumas Hadeshen. Trumas Hadeshen is every morning, first thing they do in the Beis HaMikdash is go up onto the Mizbeach and take a shovel full of ashes, and they put it right over here. You could see there's even a nice hole right over there. You see the hole? Right over here. Okay. Now, once you put it there, and you walk away, and somebody comes and decides to use the ashes, he's over on Me'ilah. Why? It says, V'samai, Eitzlam Mizbeach, it's supposed to remain there. Now, top of Samach Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, okay, so you're right. There is something called Trumas Hadeshen that has Me'ilah, even though the job is completely done. Mishum Dahavet Trumas Hadeshen, Ubigdi Kuhuna, Shnei Ksuvim Habayim Ke'echad. Famous sugya, many times in Shas. You learn it once, you know them all. It's the same style every single time. So you have Trumas Hadeshen and Big Dekuna. Big Dekuna again, Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol wears the begadim. Could he use it? Could he not use it? It was done. The avodah is done. Yet, even though the avodah is done, if you try to use his beged, you're over on Me'ilah. So now you have two things. Now, once you have two psukim, if the Torah wanted to teach you this halacha to the rest of the Torah should have just said it once. Say it by Trumas Hadeshen, let's say. And from that, you can learn halacha to all of the Torah. But since the Torah repeats it and says in two different places, so two places means that you don't learn from those two places to anywhere else. It's only those two places. So we have Trumas Hadeshen and Big Dekuna, that there is Me'ilah after you're done with the avodah. You cannot learn a drasha from it. Another sugya that we had a few times in the Masechta, whether or not, I think, sounds very familiar, right? Can you use the big day kahuna? Do you get rid of them? Are you going to it right there? Is it just that next year you can't use it? It's not true. The reason why this Me'ilah, once the Kohen Gadol finishes doing his avodah, is because somebody else could use it. So it's Me'ilah. You can't go into the Beis Hamikdash and grab a Kohen Gadol's clothing and be potter. You're going to have to bring a carbon. You're mile. And once the Kohen Gadol is done with his avodah, somebody else will use it. Who will use it? A Kohen Hadiyat. So it's not Shnei Ksuvim Abam Kechad. It's only one now. Now we only have Trumas Hadeshen. Says the Gemara, Mishum Dahavet Trumas Hadeshen ve'egla arufa. What's egla arufa? This guy. In case you don't remember the cartoon. Egla arufa, decapitating the head of an egla, of a calf, if we are not sure where the murder belongs to, this between two cities. You measure the whole thing, egla arufa. Now, once you kill the egla, also you can't benefit from the egla. Now let me ask you something. If you have shnei ksuvim habayim ke'echad, you have egla, rufa, and trumas hadeshen. What about the mandama that says you also have big dekuna? So it's 3. Could you learn from 3, or you can't learn from 2, but you could learn from 3? What do you say? Leivi says it's a kolchkein. What do you say? Not a kolchkein. Taisa says it's a kolchkein. If the Torah says it 3 times, it's only in these 3 places. Kolchkein. If the Torah says it twice, you can't learn from it. So if the Torah says it 3 times, certainly, and 4 times, certainly. Certainly. Kolchkein. Okay. V'chol shnei ksuvim habayim ke'echad ein melamdin. Okay, so we have 2 places that the Torah says that what? Once you're done with egla rufa and you use it, you benefit, you're over hamila. Once the Kohen puts the Trumas Hadeshen on the floor and you benefit, you're over. But only those 2 places, but blood not. Now, this is the classic. That's great if you actually believe in this halacha that you cannot learn from 2 psukim. But throughout Shas, we have a mandama that says you could learn from 2 psukim. So let's learn blood from it. That once you're done with the blood, you did the hazayis and everything. If you use the blood, you're over on Me'ilah. Okay, because the pasuk says it differently here. This samai instead of samai, ha arufa instead of arufa. There's a vav, there's a hey. These tell us that it's dafka in these 2 places, but in blood there's no Me'ilah if you use the blood after you're done with that avodah. Okay. I guess I should show this. Shom. Oh, by the way, do me a favor, pass this to Gary. Tell him to fix my word. It's not so gishmak. Look, I can't. If you look at this one, look at. This has the nice highlight behind the letters. You see? I don't know if you can see. There's a little bit of a Hi. There's a shadow. I can't do it on my word anymore. I can guarantee you one thing. I know there's no way in the world you give him $10,000. He's not coming up here. No. Now what? What if he gives $10,000 for this man? He'll come. There's other ways I could get him up here, but not whatever. Fine. So. What? Which one? No, it's not ksuvim. It's a special miyut. Miyutim, not ksuvim. Right. But each. Yeah. Correct. But once you have. Well, I'll tell you. Now that you bring it up, I'm just thinking it aloud here. I'm hoping that my chavrus is listening, because yesterday when you asked me a question, I answered. He came over and he goes, "Wow, that was very chash what you told him." You remember the question? Oh, you told him the answer that I said? And he didn't come up with it. Great. Wow. No, I'm thinking just loud here. You asked, what did you ask? You asked, do you need both miyutim? So I'm thinking, let's say there's just one miyut. So that would leave us with one pasuk, and that's melamdim. So maybe we do need two miyutim. He's thinking, okay. Says the Gemara, V'hanit losekroi b'dam lamali. So yesterday we had this pasuk. In one pasuk we had 3 manda amrim that say, how do I know that you could benefit from the blood? It says, lachem, it's for you to benefit. Lechaper, it's only for kapara. Who? Ba'aviyasi, okay. But at the end of the day, we have 3 limudim from one pasuk. So something's going on here. What do we do with these limudim? Why do you need 3 words? If you hold that the word is lachem, so then what do you do with these 2? If you hold the word is who, so what do you do with the top 2? B'kitzur, what do you do with all 3? Says the Gemara, Chad lemutim inoisar. Very interesting. That in general, with all kachim, the meat, the chaylev of karbanos, if it's left overnight and you eat it, you're chayiv. But this blood, there's no chiyuv karas. There's no chiyuv carbon on the. Let's say you drink it b'shaygig, you ate the blood b'shaygig, so you're chayiv on blood, and even if it was left overnight, you're not chayiv on noisar. The isur noisar doesn't apply here, right? Because sometimes you're chayiv a few isurim. Let's say you eat chaylev, ayim kippur, whatever it is. Sometimes you chayiv a couple isurim. Over here you're not chayiv. You're only chayiv on one isur of blood, not on the isur noisar. V'chad lemutim me'ilah, that we just discussed. There is no isur me'ilah once the blood is done. V'chad lemutim mituma, and tuma over here means tumas haguf of the person. If a person is tamei and he eats kachim, he's chayiv kares. Over here he wouldn't be chayiv kares. Why? Because we have a mir in the pasuk. If you eat blood of a carbon, when you are tamei, you're not chayiv for it. Avo mi pigul loy tzorich lemutei kra. However, pigul is you thought to yourself that you're going to eat it at a different time. Loy tzorich lemutei kra. That I don't need a special miyut. Why? The snan. In other words, you have blood in a cup. This is asur because it's blood. By the way, I'm mechulik, started looking into it. I'm mechulik on the guy that said that you have to put scales. Because I found another halacha about almond milk. It does say, mefurish in the Shulchan Aruch, you put scales in, but it says that it's there to show you that it's fish blood. So what if you put a letter in front of it that says fish blood, or you show the actual fish? And my raya is from almond milk. Almond milk, you don't have to put almonds in it. You just have to put the bottle next to it, and that's okay. The point is that people shouldn't be choishe that you drank blood. You hear Yisrael Helper? You thought that I drank it, right? Even after I said I didn't. What's pshat? You were focused on that thing. Okay. Weiter. So we have blood. And the blood is pigul. So you're not over on. Pigul, the Kohen thought himself that he's going to do the hazah. He's going to sprinkle this on the mizbeach in 3 days from now, instead of today. So you're not over on the pigul. Why? Listen to this. You don't need a pasuk. This not, it says in the Mishnah. Kol sheyesh matirin. If it's meat, that there's something else that makes it mutter for you to eat. What's that something else? Blood. When you sprinkle blood on a mizbeach, Now the kohen could eat his carbon. The Yisrael could eat the shlamim, whatever it is. It has a matter. There's something else that's matter. Bein la'adam, bein la'mizbeach. Whether you're eating, what's matter to go on the zrikas hadam, chayav malam mishum pigol. Then there's an iser pigol. V'dam atzmoi materhu. But the blood itself, it is what creates the heter for other things to be eaten and put on the mizbeach, whatever it is. So it itself never becomes pigol. Again, something that becomes mutter through something else, like the only way I could eat this carbon is if you put blood on a mizbeach, then that meat becomes pigol. But if you are the one mattering it, then it itself cannot become pigol. I saw in a sefer, a nice pshat I thought. Tell me if you'd like this pshat. In this world, there are givers and takers. They're the Yossi Kleins of the world, and they're takers. I'm not saying no chas, I'm not the guys that take the Gemara. I'm just saying, people. Wow, it's a good thing they're not part of the Shirra yet. Wow, I really didn't mean that. But anyway, the giver and takers. The matir is the giver. He's a guy that gives. He makes other people kosher. He cannot become pigol. He can't become a shtik pigol. But a taker, that is a guy with Elio. I'm trying to put it here. Nachman Seltzer, get over here. How do you have this guy with Elio? Get over here. Get over here. Get over here. Unbelievable. Yeah, the flourishing guy with Elio. The Kitzer, he didn't like the pshat. That's what he's saying. Oh, you like it? Okay. Okay, good. How did you have that? Was.
So I just want to say.
Now you gave away that. I can't say that. So I should lie about the sefer. Okay. That's right. Very good, very good. Yeah. It's not time for that story. Okay. Says the Mishnah, the official Mishnah sponsored schos of the MDY team. I don't know what to say, team or family, something like that. Team. I see it on your phone. Team. Says the Mishnah, Kol Ma'aseh Yom Kippur Ma'amur Ala Seder. There's so many avodas on Yom Kippur, and they all have to be in order. Says the Mishnah, as we read it now, we're going to see in the Gemara, it's not exactly so. But we're continuing with the avodah of Yom Kippur. If you go out of sequence, start from where you messed up. If you went out of order, so whatever that action was, you did step 3 instead of step 2, step 3 take out, erase, pretend you never did it. We know that the bull blood, that's what we're dealing with all along, bull comes before the goat. First you're done with the bull, then you shech the goat. So if you did the goat's blood before the bull, you must repeat. Once you have the bull's blood, you have to do the bull and repeat over the blood of the goat. What if you don't have blood? It's spilled. How do you bring more blood? It's spilled. You have to shech another animal. And he has to start all over from step 1 inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So, Kodesh HaKadoshim. Sprinkle 1 on top towards the Aron, 7 on the bottom. You got to number 4 on the bottom. 4, and then all of a sudden, you went out of order. It's spilled. So you have to start over. You have to go 1 and then do all the 7 again. You can't just pick up where you left off. You can't say, I did 1 plus 4, let me just do 3 more sprinkles. Doesn't work like that. The same thing happens in the Heichal. So he's done with the Kodesh HaKadoshim, he comes outside into the Heichal, does all the sprinkling of the blood towards the Paroiches. Now, this is just a simple Rashi. In the Heichal, he messes up. So he has to start over from the beginning of the Heichal. What about the Kodesh HaKadoshim? He messed up. The answer is no. Kodesh HaKadoshim is by itself. Once you're done with Kodesh HaKadoshim, now you start Heichal. You mess up with Heichal, start from the beginning of Heichal. Okay. V'chein b'mizbach hazav. The same applies to the Mizbech hazav. We saw yesterday. How many hazavs do we have in the Mizbech hazav? We have the 4 on the corners, and then on top, the 7. Shekulam kapara b'fnei atzim. Each one is an individual kapara, and if you don't have the full kapara, you have to start over. Not true. They argue, and they say that wherever you got to 4, do 5, 6, 7, and you're done. You need new blood, but just continue from where you left off. Honor of Reb Eli. Kol ma'aseh Yom Kippurim ha'omer al haseder. We learned in the Mishnah that everything on Yom Kippur must be done in a very particular order. And if you went out of sequence, like asa klum, you didn't, whatever that is, step number 3 doesn't count if you didn't do step number 2. Omer Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda qualifies this halacha. It's not really, I don't think, 3 shitas. It's more like 2 shitas here. Omer Rabbi Yehuda. We learned, if you were with us from the beginning, the Kohen Gadol starts off with his Big Day Zav, the regular garments that he wears every day. And then he switches into Big Day Lavin, which are for avodas that are specific for Yom Kippur. And then he goes back to the Zav. Then he goes back to the Lavin, then to Zav. And that's why he requires the 5 tefillas and all the Kiddush Yadayim V'Reglayim. Every time he switches clothing, he does a tefillah. So, when you have Big Day Lavin mibifnim, for the avodah of pnim, there's also Big Day Lavin that you do avodah b'chutz in the heichal. But when you're wearing the white clothing, specifically for Kodesh HaKadoshim, then you have to take it back. But if you messed up on anything else, even the white clothing, even avodah that's specific for, let's say, what do you do outside? You do the goyrel outside. You do different things outside with the white begadim. So you messed up in the goyrel, you did the goyrel before something else. It doesn't mess anything up. Won't even mess up if you did it before the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Love says Rabbi Yehuda, it's a very specific to Kodesh HaKadoshim. In other words, we're going to see in a second, Rabbi Yehuda is learning that the pasuk is talking about what's special about Yom Kippur is the Kodesh HaKadoshim, not the Big Day Lavan. The Kodesh HaKadoshim, once a year, where do you go once a year? Into Kodesh HaKadoshim. We'll see in a second. Avol dvar manasim b'Big Day Lavan mibachutz. No, bachutz means heichal. Compared to Kodesh HaKadoshim is heichal. So, for instance, the goyrel, vidui, shirayim, pouring the shirayim. Where do you pour the shirayim? By the mizbeach hachitzon, which is in the azara. V'chol matnois haparoiches u'mizbeach hazav, says Rashi. That's all considered bachutz. So, only Kodesh HaKadoshim. Because you could go into the heichal during the year. Think about it. If his svara is, what's different about Yom Kippur? What's different about Yom Kippur is Kodesh HaKadoshim. So it's very specific to the Ketores in Kodesh HaKadoshim, the application of the dam in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But putting the blood on the Mizbeach HaZav, even though it's for Yom Kippur, it's bachutz. That's considered heichal is already bachutz. Now, there are 2 avodas that are not in here, that we're going to see at the end. I'll just cheat and tell you, so easier to remember maybe. Rabbi Yehuda says, it has to be something you do in Kodesh HaKadoshim. However, something that's related to Kodesh HaKadoshim is also part of this, and that is the shechita that you do for the bull. Where do you do the shechita of the bull? You don't do it in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. You do it outside. But you need that shechita to get blood to do the avodah inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So if you do the shechita out of sequence, no good. The same thing with the chafina for the ketores. What's the chafina for? You're gathering the ketores to bring it inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Even though the chafina is done outside, right, base of tinas, it's ma'akiv. Huh? What do you see? Where do you? Reb Nechemia Omer. No, so I'm saying Reb Yehuda is qualifying the Mishnah. It could be. My chaburah learns that. My chaburah learns is 3 shitas. I don't. Where do you see 3 shitas? Yeah, so that's from Nechemia, maybe. Reb Nechemia Omer bemed dvar mamurim bidvar menasim big day lavan bei mibifnim bei mibachotz. Anything that's you're wearing the white clothing, because white is special about Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, it's not the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He says it's big day lavan. So anything that you're wearing the white clothing, it doesn't matter if it's inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim or bei mibachotz outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Avo bidvar menasim big day zav mibachotz. The only difference is that if it's the golden clothing, the regular clothing, mashallah, What about big day Zav inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim? There's no such thing. Okay, great. Listen, even if Akiva Solway knew the answer, and he's only how old? 12. Everybody had the answer. Okay, great. Zog the Gemara. So, Rashi says in Big Zav over here, he takes the ayil, his ayil or the elam, and he did it. He did it after Haitzas Kafu Machta, taking out. So I'm just pointing out something very interesting. I think you could be mechav into it also. The Tzirel Shonim points out, but if you do it in Rashi's sequence, he went out of order. The Gemara says it's not a problem. You did something big day zav bachutz, it's not a problem. But the problem is now you have less tefillos because you're putting two avodas that you do with the white clothing together. So you don't have zav white. You have zav white zav. So you have less tefillos. So isn't that a problem? Is that makiv? And the answer is not makiv. The tefillah, to have 5 tefillos, it's just a good something to know halacha that the tefillah, if you don't do 5, that's not makiv. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. And please remember this Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, Rabbi Yochanan over here is coming to explain Reb Nechemia as well. And he's saying, Ushnei mikra achadash. I'll explain to you Reb Nechemia. That what? V'haisa zois lachem lechukas oilam achas bashana. So you see in the pasuk it says achas once a year, and it says chukah. Chukah means it's ma'akiv, it has to be just so. So now we turn to Samach Amud Beis, L'ilui nishmas uri b'matisyo, and for the success in Gashmis and especially the ruchnis of his grandchildren. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Makoim shemiskaper boy pam achas b'shana. It's a place where you only go there once a year. So Memela has everything to do with inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. I saw in a sefer today. Yes, this morning. There are 3 kaparas in this world. This is the kapara of Yom Kippur. A person does an avera, he gets Yom Kippur, comes in his mechaper. There's something much worse, and that is Yisurim are mechaper. You do such a bad avera that loyalenu you need a bad Yisurim. And there's something even worse, and that is Misa. It's such an avera that only death could be mechaper. Says the Gemara, you should be zoicha to only do those averas that it's pamachas b'shana. That Yom Kippur is mechaper. Don't go to the harder averas. Now, because I said that I saw it in a sefer, it ruined a little bit of the thing. But this is some sefer. Some sefer says this, based on this Gemara. You chapped right away. It wasn't the guy with it. Okay. You didn't fall for it twice. Okay. Says the Gemara of Reb Nechemia Savar. So from the same pasuk, it says achas. It's not. So in other words, Rabbi Yehuda say that it has nothing to do with the big day love and has everything to do with the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And Rabbi Nechemia says no. It's the type of avodah that only applies to once a year, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it. If you had to choose Rabbi Nechemia over Rabbi Yehuda, which one would you pick? You'd pick Kodesh HaKadoshim. Where does it say anything about Kodesh? It says Pam Achas B'Shana once a year. What do you do once a year? And that's the Gemara's question. What did it say in the pasuk? A place. It says once a year Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is special that there's different avodas. Whatever the avodah is, even outside, it should be ma'akev. Ella, it's a bottom question, so therefore we have to go a different way. Zois is very specific. Only this. It's ma'akev. Zois is ma'akev. Right over here. So what do we do with these 2 very strong lashonos? Big day love to exclude. In other words, it's not ma'akev. The only thing that's ma'akev, achas b'shana. Achas b'shana can mean inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, outside. So I'll start like that. But then once the pasuk comes and says Zois, now it narrows it down. It makes it a little bit stiffer. It's only, what's ma'akev? Only an avodah that's inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim. If I go add a sequence and avodah that's outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's not ma'akev. It's not the end of the world. Oh, v'chad l'mu'utei big day zav. And the next one is to do the regulars. What's your question? Because you have to go in order. You go from the heart. Yeah. Same answer I answered yesterday. We're starting. You go for the strongest one, Kodesh HaKadoshim, and then you move yourself to Heichal. Right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Okay, fine. Next. Okay. You see the opposite from here. That the first one comes to be Mayat, the big day Lavan, the most, and then the okay. Reb Nechemia doesn't hold that big day Lavan is a miut. Big day Lavan, even outside, is ma'akiv. So what does he do with the two limudim? Chad limute big day zav, v'chad limute shirayim. The loy ma'akvi. What's shirayim? All the way at the end of the avodah, you sprinkle all the blood. Whatever blood is left over in the cup, that's the leftover. What do you do with it? So you pour it in onto the base of the mizbeach. Reb Nechemia holds that it's not such an important avodah. Let's call it a weak avodah. It's an avodah, you have to do it. But it's not like, wow, if I don't do it, you have to start over again. You don't have to start over again. It's a weaker one. Says Rabbi Yehuda, ima'akvi ma'akvi, v'loi ma'akvi, loi ma'akvi. It's a very interesting lashon. But what he's saying is, if the other avodas are ma'akiv, so the pouring of the blood should also be ma'akiv. What's the difference? Says Rabbi Yehuda, it's an avodah. There's no such thing as, I don't know if this is a good lashon, like half pregnant. That's how they used to say in yeshiva. I don't know if it's such a nice lashon. But the point is, if it's an avodah, it's an avodah. All avodah is a chashiv. It's a little chashiv. It's more chashiv, less chashiv. It's avodah. It should be in the same category as all avodas, and it should be makiv. And guess what? It's not, because. So, in other words, Rabbi Yehuda holds it's avodah chashuva. Rabbi Yehuda imakvi makvi v'loi ma'akvi loi ma'akiv. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda holds that no avodah. This is not a single avodah outside of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's ma'akiv. Okay. Kidesanya. V'chila mikaper es hakodesh. You hear the words? V'chila. He finished doing the kapara in the kodesh. Im kiper, says Rabbi Kiva. Im kiper kila. If you did hazah, then you get. If you did hazah, then kila, then you finished. You're done. Vim loy kiper. But if you didn't do hazah, loy kila, you're not done. Divrei Rabbi Kiva. Omle Rabbi Yehuda. So look at this. It says Rabbi Yehuda very pashut. You're going in the wrong order of the pasuk. The pasuk says v'kilo mikaper. The word kilo comes before mikaper. So basically, Rabbi Yehuda is just flipping everything around. Rabbi Kiva said keeper kilo. If you sprinkle the blood, you're done. Like keeper, it's just a play on words. It's fancy words. Yes and no. If you did this, great. If you didn't do it, no good. If you didn't do kapara, you didn't do azah, like you. Says Rabbi Yehuda, but that's not what it says in the pasuk. The pasuk says the word kila before kapar. So let's flip it. If you're done, you get a kapara. If you're not done, you didn't get a kapara. What's the difference between the two? Says the Gemara, there might not be a difference at all. Or maybe there is a very big difference. What is the difference? Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Chad Omar Mashmaus Darshan. It's just, you have to be accurate. You're going to say drasha, say it correctly, Rabbi Kiva. I'm making a macha. It's a beautiful drasha that you're saying, but it's just not the right order in the pasuk. So say it the right way. We're saying the same thing. The idea is the same. Just use it the way the Torah says it. Im kilo keeper. Loi kilo loi keeper. Why flip the words? V'chadomar shirayim ma'akve ikebenayu. The what? No. It's a huge, huge difference. According to Rabbi Yehuda, kila, you finished everything, all the way to the end. You did it 100%. Kilo means you finished. What does finish mean? You poured the blood where you need to pour it. That's the final avodah. If you did the final avodah, you get a kapara. You don't do the final avodah, then you don't get a kapara. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you don't have to pour the blood. You have to do kapara. You have to do hazah. Pouring the blood later on is not important. So, based on these words, It's a beautiful yesod here. The question is if shirayim is ma'akiv. The leftover, the things that you wouldn't pay attention to. So there's a beautiful story from my favorite person that I had a story about. It's my favorite story. Not this one, but it's very similar. It tells me that this story is true. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach gave his son a bunch of envelopes to give out before Yontif to the needy. And his son is giving out the envelopes. And he notices that one of the envelopes is thicker. Doesn't have a check in it. Something else in there. What? Not his son. Okay. But one minute, let me finish the story and then you'll tell me. Okay.
Gotta get the details accurate. So Gallus gave out the...
Okay. Well, you're gonna say it's gonna be a different story at the end, and then yeah. All right. So Yisrael Gellis said that it happened with him. Who? Gellis? In your book? It's in your book. It's in Nachman Seltzer's book. He gave out the envelope, and he felt that one of the envelopes is thick. But Noam says it wasn't an envelope. In a different book, he saw it wasn't an envelope. Okay, let's just go right there. Says the Gemara. Anyway, Rabbi Yisrael Gellis was giving out envelopes from Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and one of them was thicker. So it wasn't Rabbi Yisrael Gellis. It's not a nice story. It wasn't. He opens up the envelope, and he sees tickets to the zoo. So he runs back to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and he says, "Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, tickets to the zoo. I'm giving out money, cash. What are you doing?" So he says, "Thank you for opening up my envelope." Some people, they receive gifts for Yontif, a little money, food, but if somebody gives them money, they're not going to take that money and spend it on themselves and have a little hana, go out for spatzir, enjoy Yontif, Chalmoid. So the Galadar, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, I don't know how old he was, in his 80s, let's say, gets on a bus because he didn't have a car, gets on a bus, goes all the way to the biblical zoo in Yerushalayim, purchases tickets by himself, came back, put it in the envelope, so that this mishpacha should be able to go to the zoo on Chalamayit. That's why I love Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, the Galadar. So sometimes you think, it's the small things, it's the shirayim, it's the leftover, it's that. No, it's things like that make the big difference. You give him a check, okay, check is nice, beautiful. So, tickets to the zoo. It's unbelievable. After we get to the Kaisel, somehow we're going to have a shir, Beis Hashem, Marsa Machpelah, Kibarachel, and in the zoo. First, I think it's going to be in the safari. Safari is going to come first. Zok the Gemara. Omar Reb Chanina, Ketoires Shechafona Kodim Shchitos Shapar. Oh, you're right. Umi Omar Reb Yochanan Hachi. According to, we said, if you remember, I told you to remember. According to Reb Nechemia, Shirayim is not makiv. But that's what Reb Yochanan says. He's talking in Reb Nechemia. We are Reb Yochanan Hachi, Omar Reb Yochanan. Honor of Reb Nechemia Kidivya Mishraim Me'akvig. It really is ma'akiv. Where did he say it? That if somebody takes blood, very interesting halacha, somebody takes blood and brings it as a carbon outside of the Beis HaMikdash, he says ma'akiv. He's over on shchuti chutz, bringing something outside of Beis HaMikdash. It's ma'akiv. Says the Gemara Kasha. And from Kasha, start finished. There must be an answer here. I'm sure the Achrayim talk about it. Let's just do 2 more minutes. Omer Reb Chanina, K'toyer shechafana kodim shchitas shepar. Here's the way it should be. It's shchitas par, chafina, and then hazas par. Okay, it's very interesting. The hazah comes after the chafina. So he did step 2 before step 1. Lo yosef alei klum doesn't count. His chafina doesn't count. Now, let's think about it. Why doesn't it count? Where do you do chafina? Outside of the Kodesh Kodashim. Who says that outside of the Kodesh Kodashim is a problem? Reb Nechemia. Review the holds that only things that have to do with Kodesh Kodashim are a problem. Chafina shouldn't be on this list. It shouldn't be a problem. So says the Gemara command, the like Reb Yehuda. Dik Reb Yehuda Amar kiksi v'chuka b'dvarim asim v'gdilav mibifnim udechsiva. Par is outside. The para is outside of the chafina, whatever. But the Torah is inside. The par is outside. It says Gemara filu temer rebuda. Soirich pnim kipnim dami. Whether it's shechting a cow, a bull, whether it is doing the chafina, even though they're done outside, both of those things have to do with inside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, because eventually the blood is going to end up in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Torah is going to be in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Have a wonderful day. Shem Alois, Miriam, Yossi Give me your Gemara. Oh my gosh, you don't have it. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you don't have it.